Hey everybody, this is Benita with Ivy's Lupus Life, and I want to do a part 7. Actually, I'm gonna actually combine parts 7 and 8. Um, but this one is called They Deserve Better. Um, some things in this one that go way deeper than what a lot of people may know. And um, I'm gonna try to get through this, y'all, okay? Because this is a very hard part for me, okay? So let me just first, again, just give you a quick recap. Everything I got going on now, okay? Epilepsy, got married, which was a very happy moment for me. Um, got pregnant, miscarriage. Got pregnant again, difficult pregnancy, diagnosed with diabetes, had some surgeries in between there, ended up getting a cancer diagnosis, had a hysterectomy, followed by a lupus diagnosis, all this pain, all this fatigue, you know, alopecia and whatnot, and just a lot of crap going on. Okay. Um, so when I say they deserve better, I'm speaking in terms of my husband and my child. And they deserve better for two very different reasons, but yet a same common denominator. Um, of course, I'm a common denominator, but when I say that the common denominator, I mean in terms of neglect. It's just going to my daughter first. When I say neglect, and I know I talked about this in the last video a little bit, in terms of me feeling emotionally disconnected. I spend a lot of time with my daughter, so I'm physically there, but I'm not there emotionally and things like that. And I'm mentally checked out from her at times. So whenever we're at home, a lot of times I feel like, aside from the fatigue and I just want to lay in the bed, I don't feel like doing anything with the girl. Outside, her dance schedule alone was very draining. Practice several times a week, the dance competitions, out of town competitions, and things like that. But even aside from that, I just don't feel, I didn't feel connected to her, really. Love my child. I'm going to do anything for my child, go to the ends of the earth for my child. But part of me felt like I did that out of obligation, because it is my kid and I asked for her. I have to do certain things for her, but actually interacting with her, I would much rather have kids over at my house, them spending the night playing with her, them playing and spending their time at play dates, than I did just be me and her. Let it just be me and her. I just felt more comfortable with her being elsewhere or away from me, so I can have my alone time. And it's a terrible feeling to have as a parent, but that's just what I felt. I mean, I have to tell my truth, and that is my truth. I felt so bad that I did not want to interact with her in that nature. Now, there are times where we had some really good moments, and it's like, cool, I can do this or whatever. But I still struggled, because a lot of times I questioned my capabilities as a parent. I felt like I was less than. I felt like I needed to be connected to my child, but I just did not know how. Sometimes she had some emotional breakdowns where, our dog died, some years ago, and she's like, oh my God, I just miss Man, which that was his name. I just miss him, and she would cry, and I'm like, want to call your granny and talk to her about this, or you want to call your dad, or call my mom. It's like, hey, you want to come get her? I ain't got time for all of that because I don't know how to deal with it. But nonetheless, I felt completely disconnected from her. I used to cook, like I said, before I got pregnant, on a regular basis, and I didn't do that anymore. You know, as the years went on, everything got less and less and less. As my symptoms progressed, you know, as my symptoms got worse or whatever, I just did less, including interacting with her. So again, I felt very neglectful. I felt like a crappy parent at times because I would look at some other parents out there, some other mothers out there, especially single mothers, that made it look easy. And I just felt like, well, what the hell? I mean, did I even really deserve this child that I asked for? That's how I felt. But again, I put on a smile. As you know, Smokey Robinson says, tears of a clown is what I would do. I just kept it moving. When I say my husband deserves better, so again, it's very difficult. But there are some people out there who may be going through this, and I'm gonna spare you the really, 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 really deep details. I'm just gonna kind of keep it PG, okay? So let me just say that aside from the fact that I used to cook 3-4 times a week, clean every Saturday, have everything laid out. My husband works. Again, he has 2 businesses, and he works. You just gotta make sure I have health insurance. It's necessary. So, he does all these things, and I feel like he should be able to, you know, have his time for himself. I feel like, you know, whatever it is he needed, I needed to make sure that I provided. And I started to feel less than. That's something I mentioned in previous videos. I felt less than. I felt very inadequate as a wife. I already felt inadequate as a mother. But as a wife and as a woman, I felt very inadequate because I can no longer bear my own children. All I had is that one. I wanted her to have a playmate. I wanted to have at least 3 kids. Again, I come from a very big family. You know, it's 5 of us. I'm number 4, 5 kids. My grandmother, my mom's side, she had 6 kids. Her mother had like 15. And, you know, my dad has, you know, a big family, and, you know, I just come from that, so that's what I wanted. As opposed to my husband, they don't really have that size of a family that I have, you know, and then they're very spaced apart in age and things like that. So, again, I wanted to have more kids, but once you go in there and you start yanking out lady parts, took away that ability. So I already started to feel inadequate as a woman, and then you threw things in there, the feelings of inadequacy as a wife, because, you know, after you have a hysterectomy, your body changes. Things that you used to do become difficult. You may not always have that energy to do it or to do those things or whatever. And I just felt like if my husband came to me and said, hey, this is what I want, I should be able to say, cool, no problem, go ahead and do that. But again, once you start taking out those lady parts, things like that become more of a challenge, I guess you could say. We're not old, of course, and mind you, my hysterectomy was 5 years ago, so I was in my early 30s, and I just felt like I just was not fulfilling all of that as a wife. So I really felt like crap. And, you know, for man, it's easier, I guess you can say, when situations may arise, say, okay, bam, I'm ready. For a woman, it's not as easy, especially when you have a hysterectomy, okay? Things get shifted around and things don't necessarily, work the way they did beforehand. And again, without getting too graphic, I will say this much. Everybody's different in terms of their hysterectomy or whatever, but things became very uncomfortable and painful for me. At one point, there were some tears shed. And of course, when you're in pain, your husband, at least my husband, is like, hey, what's he does not want to cause me any pain whatsoever. But basically, that's one of the reasons why I started to feel very much inadequate as a wife. And I truly, 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 and my husband did not find this out until I saw that first counselor, that in my mind, it was so bad. Not it was bad, like the act was bad, but just in general, feeling inadequate as a wife and as a mother, was specifically when it comes to him as a wife. And again, it wasn't just that aspect of the bedroom that made me feel inadequate. Again, it was, if my husband came home and said, hey, did you cook? And I have to tell him no. I didn't have the energy to do it. Or, hey, babe, I need some socks. Did you wash clothes? No, I didn't have the energy to do it. Or, yeah, babe, you do have some socks, but let me go and get them out the basket because I had enough energy to wash, but for 6 days I didn't have the energy to fold. So the clothes would be sitting in the basket, just there. So I felt terrible because I felt like, sometimes I wouldn't clean the kitchen. My husband would come home after, whether, going to his 9 to 5, so to speak, or, one of his other businesses, and he shouldn't have to come home and clean up. He should not have to do that. And I felt like he deserved so much more. As many sacrifices as my husband makes for myself and my daughter, he deserved better. Just like I felt she deserved better, but I can't, change the fact that I'm her mother, it is what it is. But for him, I felt like I was a horrible, horrible wife. He would always say, babe, it's okay. Even, before I got the diagnosis, he was like, it's cool, I get sometimes you got a lot going on. Once I had the diagnosis, he was like, okay, now we understand that there's truly, truly, truly something wrong, and we can work at it. But when I saw the first therapist, and at first she would just see me, but then she brought him in and it's like, hey, let's just talk or whatever, figure some things out. And that's when I hit him with, I felt so crappy that I was ready to give my husband a hall pass. And for those that don't know what a hall pass is, I was literally ready to be like, babe, I'm not fulfilling my duties, so to speak, as a wife. So, I had flat out told him, and he was completely shocked when I said it. But I let him know, I said, babe, if you were to go out there and cheat, I would be devastated. But I understand. Because I felt like I was just not enough for him. And again, it's very, very difficult for me to talk about this part of it. Especially, I know my parents are going to see it, so they're really going to be like, what? But it's the truth. I have to tell my truth, and it might be somebody else out there that's going through a very similar thing, or because for me, I felt so alone, so alone with all this. Like, so this is another thing that I definitely bottled up inside. And when my husband heard that, you could have knocked him over with a feather. And he was like, what in the hell? He was like, you lost your mind? He told me flat out, he was like, never He said, never will I do that. He was like, he took his vows. And he said, I accepted my vows. And he said that he accepted his vows and he took them very seriously. He was like, whatever it is that you got going on, he said, first and foremost, you need to talk to me about it, which we've always had open lines of communication, but that's just not something that you really want to say. For one, because do you really want to speak on that and then it happens? And then you stuck your whole foot in your mouth and now you're upset and everything because it did happen. You don't want to open Pandora's box, so to speak. But that's also just not an easy thing to talk about. Even though we talk about everything, that was just one of those things that I just didn't want to say because I didn't really want to make it a reality, but at the same time, it was my truth. If he did step out, I would be devastated because again, I've been with this man since I was 17, but I would understand. No matter how much he loves me and no matter how much, we're in love or how long we've been married, a man is still a man. But again, he assured me that that's not something that he would ever do, and I believe that he would never do it. But in my mind, it was that deep. Again, you could have knocked him over with a feather. Like he was mad. He was literally mad. Like, why would you even think that is something that I want to do? So you can imagine for me the depth that I was good, the depth of things that I was feeling. Again, these are things that even though I came to that revelation that if it happened, or at least I succumbed to the thought that if it was to happen, I would just have to deal because I'm not doing what I need to do, at least not to my full potential at that time. So again, it was a very hard pill to swallow. And aside from all of that, because I did not have the energy to do a lot of things, around the house or whatever, I started to withdraw from my husband. I literally started to feel like a roommate. Like he would work or he would come home and I would see him, but I just didn't want to interact with him really because I felt like I didn't deserve it. So even though I felt like he deserved better, I felt like I really didn't deserve anything. Like I didn't deserve my husband going out and doing all the things that he did for this household, for me and my daughter. I felt like if he's gonna do extra, if that's what he wants to do or whatever, do it for her. Don't do anything for me. Again though, even though I said I work, I still felt like he contributed way more to our household in every aspect than I did. Completely downplayed and ignored everything that I was doing. I just kind of felt like I didn't deserve to enjoy the fruits of his labor as his wife. I didn't feel like I just didn't deserve it. Like I said, but he deserved so much more. He deserved better than what I felt like I could offer. Because again, I'm already not feeling like a whole woman because they took my innards out or whatever. But again, I to be able to live and live without cancer, then that's something that I just have to deal with. I had it in my mind that this is just the way it is. But either you're a crappy wife, you're a crappy mother, you don't deserve to be his wife because he is such an amazing husband, an amazing man, an amazing father. I just felt like I just felt like he should have so much more than what I could give. It wasn't that I wasn't willing to give. It's just that I just felt like I couldn't do it. I should be able to get up in the morning and say, bam, let me cook breakfast. Like, assuming this is a day, like, we're at home, like on a weekend or whatever. I felt like I should be able to get up and cook breakfast. I should make my husband's lunch for work every day that he goes. I felt like he should have dinner. I felt like whenever he got up in the morning to get dressed or whatever, he should never have to say, do I have some t-shirts or whatever. Or, when I did laundry, once a week, never should he say, hey babe, where's my towel? Like, you should already have everything ready. And I know some women out there are Renaissance women or whatever the case may be, but me and my husband have always had that understanding that he'll take care of everything outside the house that needs to be done. I'll take care of inside. That's just our arrangement or whatever. Or that's just the way we liked it. Because I'm not about to do anybody's manual labor, okay? That's not me. Outside of taking the trash out, you won't catch me doing anything else. But again, that's our arrangement. So, again, I just felt like he deserved a better wife, a better woman, and she deserved a better mother. Now, talking to those people around me and things like that, they completely disagree, and including my husband. He's like, you are an excellent mother. He said, yeah, you do have some things going on that, you can't necessarily control. But, he's like, my daughter, she needs to realize how good she has it. He's like, you do realize that everything that you go through, which my husband talking to me, he's like, everything that you go through, he's like, those days that you have nothing to give, no energy, and you're running on fumes. He's like, you pushed through and got your kid to where she needed to be. You helped her with whatever homework she had, except for math. I hate math. It's like kryptonite to me. That's why she has a math tutor, okay? Anyway, so he's like, you help her with all this stuff. You get all this done. He's like, yeah, you may not be able to cook every day or, 4 times a week or whatever, but, he's like, we can work through this. And one of his things, made sure I had a pressure cooker. Well, my mom bought it, but he made sure he upgraded to a Ninja Foodie and stuff like that because it makes life easier for me. But, he says that you may not be able to finish everything that you do. He said, but whatever it is you do, you put everything that you have into it. And he's like, that's what he appreciates. My daughter, on the other hand, she is a kid. So sometimes she doesn't realize how good she has it. But the fact is, I do everything that I can for her. And it took me a really, really long time to realize that. But I do. I don't know how I do it. Not so long ago I made a video about how I was exhausted. Somehow or another, later on that day, I pushed myself to interact and spend time with that kid. Not that kid, but my kid. So, yeah, I know I love my daughter. Okay? Absolutely love my daughter. Wouldn't change it. I absolutely love my husband. But it took a lot in me to finally admit that I felt like I had such a huge feeling of inadequacy. Y'all just don't, especially a man, you just do not understand how crappy a woman can feel if she can't fulfill her husband's every desire at every minute that he wants it or whatever the case may be. It's very difficult. But it was my truth, so I have to own it. And again, it's a lot of other women out there who, may have had situations such as me, and they have those same feelings and just haven't admitted it or haven't said it. But again, it's my truth. I own it. I don't feel ashamed to say it now. Back then, absolutely, I felt ashamed to say it. I felt ashamed to say it to my husband, but I had to say it. And we are much better now because of it, even though he's never complained. in my mind, he complained. No matter what he said, I felt like he was saying, Benita, you need to do better. You are not doing what you're supposed to do as a wife in every aspect of the word. But again, that was just my own insecurities. And that's one thing I had to realize that I had. I had severe insecurities. Absolutely severe insecurities. And to this day, I am still working towards resolving those insecurities. But I'm a work in progress. I get it together. So till next time.